Hi, Betty. Jeff here. Want to tell another little behind the scenes kind of sound engineer experience with this artist for Ukraine concert we did yesterday was just a raving success, and it was glad to be able to make it a success, reducing all the risks of potential risks. Um, Sound check things that at a concert are kind of the most important things is to make sure the sound comes through. Um, at a musical concert, this is the first and most important priority is the sound. Does the sound work and is it really good? Because if you do a concert that doesn't have that, then it's just not a good user experience. Okay, user experience is super important in this. Okay, the fun thing was that it was only done like in a week and a half, right? Which is that's really fast for a concert. Uh, uh, Super fast. And the choice of the musicians and all that, and with the call for help and all that, call for participation, and Ksenia having to do all that behind the scenes. That's a lot of work. Okay, the event management of that and vetting all the musicians, everything is just like that's a lot of work. When I want to give you kind of a thing on how the sound engineering kind of experience went, because it was super fun. Okay. And I'm just really glad to have had a lot of experience doing in-person stuff, in-person sound engineering, all the fun things of that, and then actually having been able to do the and having done a lot of Zoom things. So usually they're go look up on the internet the experience of what it's like to be a sound engineer, and they have this mixing board. The guy going like this, and he's just like spazzing out because he's just can't figure out this thing. And since when COVID hit, we don't have that anymore because we can't be in person with the people, right? For a long time, at least for. And so what happened was we have a then you get the video, the Zoom version of the guy where he's figure out where the buttons are and Zoom things, right? Um, and just I did another video and I explained kind of my background in doing to do this. So I don't want to go over that again, but I want to talk about the comes to the memorable moments. And this is really for the musicians and the artists too. Kind of good to share with them because uh, being a sound engineer it's a relational thing with the musicians, and usually this is a love and hate relationship. Okay, to be honest, this is because sound engineers are kind of like the people that the musicians hate because a lot of musicians actually don't have background in sound engineering, and so um, I haven't played in a lot of bands. This is usually the case. There are a few have the sound engineering background. And to get that sound right and to get it really right, and especially when doing this online, it's really hard to do. And it's like doing customer support, technical, phone over the phone customer technical support for music. Okay. And they're usually do this with you for computer. What kind of model of computer you got? What's the thing? What other things? What versions of the app you got? And so we're doing this for a music concert, and trying to figure out what they've got. I would have liked to have remote control over the computer because that helps figure out a lot of stuff. Or I would have liked to have a camera in their room looking at what they're doing. Okay, but we don't have that, right? Um, so I want to give I just want to go through and give. I can't remember the names, and I'm learning the names of the people as I'm going along too. And I only this and we did this in a day and a half, um, and so I'm going to try to remember the names of people, or if I can't remember the exact name, I'll say the context of what you're playing and stuff because it's I don't have the thing up to actually I can't in here see the people's names and stuff, and I can't have a document open at the same time in the recording thing I've got, unfortunately. But um, some of the ones that were kind of like quick sound checks and were just a wonderful music experience to listen to the instruments and stuff. So there were a few of them. I mean, we were doing sound checks the day before a little bit and pretty much all day long for the concert itself. And everybody got 15 to 30 minutes. Some took 3 minutes. Those are the easy ones. And some of these people had they had the right equipment to do what we want to do. It's just some things were sometimes Hey, Murphy's Law, glitches. And the problem is we can't physically be there to see what they're doing. So that's always a challenge for a sound engineer. Usually, sound engineers they're like there physically and moving around and running around doing mics and plugging things in and taking cables. Right? This is what a sound engineer usually does. But to be a virtual sound engineer is another experience. Um, and so you have to kind of guess what's going on. Guessing what's happening. Then you have to ask lots of questions to figure it out. It's like customer support or tech support, right? They're trying to figure out what's going on. But uh but there were moments I think from even the first one where just listen to Rita's her guitar kind of thing. I mean it's a kind of it's not a guitar. I don't know what actually it is. Some kind of Greek some instrument from the Middle East or maybe Eastern Europe or something. And it's kind of a stringed instrument with another kind of bass string thing. And just listen to this instrument. And they're playing is like, whoa, this sounds so cool. That was just a beautiful kind of musical experience as a sound engineer. Sound engineers, it's great when you're a musician and a sound engineer, which I'm both. It's just like you, just the moment of the living of the sound stuff is like, whoa. An instrument I don't know how to play, whoa. And Kevin's his playing his harp was just like, wow. He started playing this like we were just like we'll back off and just kind of sit there and listen to the thing and just at the end go, ah, perfect. Okay. And then being, being drinking the music while you're listening to this. And at the end of him just saying nothing to say. The only thing with Kevin, we just had to say, hey, when you speak, just speak to that corner, to the mic over there in the corner, and that was the only thing we really had to say to it. And his was, and we actually were doing these multilingually too. So some of these technical support things, we're actually doing in the languages of some of the people. So sometimes we do it in Spanish. Ksenia was doing a lot of things for the Russian or other languages. For Kevin, I spoke to him French. I was just trying to do the Spanish, but then we'll get to a couple examples where I just didn't have the level of Spanish in that domain to be able to ask to ask certain questions. But so Kevin's was just and had the speech of it. It's not the singing speech of it was so fast. It was just like I said, I was thinking this is faster than Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address speech, which is known to be one of the fastest speeches spoken English. You know, I was thinking Kevin is actually his song is actually competing with that speed. It just was. It's harp rap, okay? That's what I want to call it. It just sounded like that's the kind of thing you're just like, wow, it's just a fun experience. Some other ones that were memorable. In fact, they were all memorable. Uh, some of the microphone funny one is Kristen in New York. Um, we're going through, we couldn't figure out one, and she said, "Oh, there's another mic." Oh yeah, so she had to go get. Oh, yeah, there's a better mic for doing this stuff. So she went and got that mic, and then from then on, I was like, okay, yeah, this is it. And then getting just her thing was just getting the vocal range to get the lowest kind of peaks and the highest peaks, and have her just kind of do a few little moments of just in some phrasing that would give us the kind of the low thing to check if the sound would be high enough. And then because we're not going to play with we're not going to play the volume during this thing, right? We got to find something that's just the right setting that covers the range, and getting her to have a few sentences that just had that range to be testing. And we got it. We got it. It was just like, yes, we found it. Um, some other ones that were some fun things of the microphone challenges ones was Ali in Egypt with the guitar. Um, we he was having some interface problem. He was having some problems with the devices that he had that which should normally work and do this kind of thing. I can't remember my head. He had a Focusrite, Scarlett Focusrite. But he had the stuff that should be able to work, but something wasn't working, and we couldn't be there to actually figure it out too, um, physically. So just trying to, and we're like, okay, so let's just figure it out another way. We got to think out of the box here, even if the equipment's there and the thing, and he should be doing it, and he's testing different microphones and stuff. And finally, we got to the point where we said, okay, why don't we can't get the guitar and the microphone to work together. We don't know why. but we're not going to spend 5 hours figuring it out, right? So let's just figure it out quickly. So finally, I think I came up with the idea to to have just the microphone on that he's got a stand, but he didn't have a stand with an extension because that's usually how you get around this, right? You have because a guitar is kind of a physical object. You got to play in front of you, right? So it's really hard to do this because it's taking space and makes the microphone that's standing on the stand. So, and he didn't have something you could do an extended. So I said, why don't you? So what we had to explain is try to put the microphone to the side of him with the guitar in front of it. So he could be doing, oops, they'd be doing it like kind of doing it like this and speaking, but still looking at you, yeah, in the concert. So explaining that, and I was explaining in English, but I've never said this kind of thing in English before. So I'm trying to explain it, and I'm freezing in Zoom while I'm explaining it, so he can't see me physically doing this kind of explanation just for those few seconds. And trying to with Xenia and say, okay, and Xenia, she kind of got the idea what I was doing. So we're all trying to just explain. And it wasn't the problem of not knowing the language or anyone understanding. It's just trying to explain something that I would normally not explain, right? Or won't tell people because it's just a different situation, a different kind of physical situation we do it. When we found the position and we put the microphone there, got it, and he played a guitar and stuff, I said, yeah, this works. And he wanted the voice to be more important than the guitar. That's what we did. We got the voice more louder than guitar. That's what mattered. But that wasn't what he wanted. So we got what he wanted out of that, and that's the goal. When you get what the requirements are, that just you're happy. So that was a really fun experience. And when from that moment on, I was like, yes, we found it. Now let's just test it a little bit more. Yes, yes. It was just like, we found it. Uh, the violin. Um, I'm trying to think of the guy's name for the violin. I'm sorry. I can't remember everybody's names here. I don't have the list of the people's names. Um, uh, just getting it. So we couldn't have a similar kind of problem with the microphone because he had he had so he was playing with it. We're trying different things, and finally he just pulled it out. Finally pulls out a microphone that's got it's made for the violin, right? So did that, and finally we get that. That sounds really great for the violin, but now we get the voice problem. And finally we said, hey, when you want to talk, we were discussing whether or not he could go his kind of things with the guitar, doing the voice kind of uh, voice vocal music because he's had some, but we couldn't hear it as well. And then we find, okay, well, let's not worried about that so much, just the violin. And then when you talk, because each of them has to tell the why you're just talk into the microphone of the violin, and we're cool. So we got that down. That worked really well when he figured it out. Some of the other voice or things of the guitars were like the two that were in Spanish, probably in Southern American. I can't remember both your names. I'm sorry. The lady with the she was singing, and then he was playing a little guitar, a little and so we get this noise, kind of, and the guitars. It's got some weird stuff. This just these little sounds and extra sounds, and I just said, is that a baby Taylor? So I'm having to explain this part in Spanish. But I don't usually speak in Spanish about these things. So, and I want to know the electronics that are in that guitar, and trying to explain that, because I've had even in the Taylor group on Facebook, I'm known as the guitar version and the guitar electronics versions historian, okay, of the Taylor guitars, because I've had so many of these. Um, and I've those are the things I really know really really well technically. Um, and I know what versions, the years, the electronics actually changed in some of these guitars, and what were the problems with some of these electronics. I know that for these first, so I just want to know, is this a specific one? So just trying to explain that, and trying to get him to identify what is the electronics in the guitar. The first thing, the customer support stuff was the fun thing. Trying to do this over online in fields that I'm not used to explaining this stuff in the language. Uh, if I did in English, be no problem. But I didn't have the vocabulary, and we're trying to explain vocabulary, and then even having Ksenia doing some translation too on some things, but trying to explain it and finally just what's in it. But we got it down. We've worked it out. We worked it out. It took a few extra minutes to kind of figure it out. This is the fun thing behind this. Again, you're creating a bond. You're creating a bond between the sound engineers and the musicians because it's all about trust, right? It's about getting the sound right. And it's hard to do sometimes when you're not physically there. Sometimes I want to have like a remote connection to be able to do this, because sometimes you want to do the settings in their computer. Just want to Do you want to play with the settings in the computer and do it, and say, hey, check this, check that, that. That would make things easier, but no, that makes things more complicated actually. Well, sometimes it'd be easier to tell you the truth. I've done this before. I actually could play with the settings of someone doing Zoom, and I was actually take over the control and actually change it and make it work, right? So during COVID, some of the other memorable moments for the things for Aruna in India, the hard thing was figuring out what would that the white noise, that extra noise, where's that coming from? Um, we tried out two different laptops. She actually, for the concert, used a third laptop, so she came to the concert with still another one. Um, but just trying to figure out what the sound was and why is it, and to figure out where was that sound coming from. And we finally figured out, Dan and I think, and Ksenia, I think we figured out was coming from the actual microphone processor in the computer. And she had an iPad too, and we were flipping around with between yeah, it was she didn't have she had an iPad plus the computer. I can't remember if we started the second computer. After the second went to another computer during the sound check, and then like I said, she came to a third computer in the end. Um, so we were kind of playing around with this, but trying to get the noise to remove that noise and to get the sound to sound not so like sitting in an aquarium, but sounding a little more natural. And she only had her voice, so there's no like effects on the voice. It's not like an instrument where you got some extra ringing and stuff and extra overtones of sounds. Those are the kind of cool sound things of an instrument. You have overtones. Look up overtones if you don't know what that is, and these are kind of the high frequency tones that are coming to make an instrument sound more full. Okay, but the voice is kind of hard to do that sometimes. Well, you can do it in the shower. Like when you sing in the shower and you hear these higher ringing sounds in the shower, those are called overtones. Okay, so that's what makes the musical experience sound really cool. Hopefully you learned something out of that. That's why singing in the shower in the bathroom is really fun, right? So that's called overtones. Um, the the other so Rita's a challenge just because you couldn't figure out where the noise would come. And in fact, we figured it was just the volume. The volume she would set in that microphone inside of the computer would actually start creating noise at a certain point. Um, but just trying to figure that out during sound check was, it was a challenge. But we finally got it out. We finally figured it out. It was really fun to actually say, yes, we got it. We figured it out. We're gonna be able to do this concert with this one. So those are really fun. Some other ones I'm just trying to think of as we're going through and doing these things. The group from Georgia, those guys were like, wow. It actually took like a couple minutes because we're having to go through because I need to talk to them. And during the concert, they actually had someone on site that spoke English too, so that helped, for communication. But it took a few minutes to kind of figure out, get them to have the settings in Zoom and stuff, and you're kind of going, And these guys are obviously the group. I mean, they know what they're doing, and they had a sound technician on their side running around doing stuff. So it's like we're trying to just make sure to get that person to do some settings in Zoom because we knew that they knew what they're doing sound wise, acoustic sound. And then they started playing. It's like, whoa, yeah, yes, these guys are great. But the more instruments you have is it's more like too many more cooks in the kitchen. It can make things a little more complicated, right? Um, so, but then they started playing. It's like, wow, the professional sound of this. It's just like Dan and I said to the two of us that were doing the sound things. I said, hey, they just put us out of a job of these guys. They unfortunately during the concert they had some internet connection problems because it wasn't really the sound on the side; it was more the internet connection, so that we could see what the issues was because they're lagging. But they're just like, whoa, they were just blowing us away. It was really fun. They had everything just ready to go. It's just getting the connection Zoom to work and get it to where it's just right perfect. perfect is a kind of a hard word. There's different flavors of perfect. It's kind of like having urgent, the words of urgent. Um, is this like, the different super urgent, mega urgent, hyper urgent, how urgent, right? So perfect is kind of that way, but it's a subjective term. I'm just trying to think of any other kind of examples of some of the things, just the moments of joy, okay, or yeah, the opposite of joy, right? No, there weren't. I mean, none of these were like hair raising experience. Okay, I'll tell you, I've had those hair raising ones before. So a lot of these like, things were just at certain moments, just trying to figure out different people, different the flamenco guitar player. That's like when you finally got her the distance to be just far enough away from the microphone. Yes, it worked. Just the distance for her to talk when she talked and then sing, and she's singing plus playing the guitar. It was a question, just the distance to the computer. That was all was needed. Getting that right, that distance right, so that it didn't kind of cut off and get some clipping, or but not be too low. Just trying to think of a couple of the other examples because there were so many just memorable ones. Uh, Lots of examples of like I'm trying to remember Aruna. Spent a got it time with Aruna trying to get it right because the lap the we were trying to what this background noise is coming from, and we just kept playing with it, figuring it out, playing with just turning things, and then and finally we figured out it's got to be the actual microphone volume inside of the computer chip of the computer processor, the microphone thing, because we were playing with the volumes, and at just a certain point the volume gets high and it starts creating the white noise, and then when you turn it down it's not there, but it's not loud enough, and just trying to find it. So we tried a second laptop. We end up with a third laptop. So doing the sound check during the concert. um, and it worked out. It worked out. It was a lot of guessing games, fun guessing games. Okay, these are just fun. Um, and then I'm just trying to think of just a few other examples here because I'm trying not to forget anybody. But there were just the whole day, the whole 2 days was just like, yeah, this is so fun. Um, I think the one of the most memorable experiences for me as a guitar player, because everybody I was putting my guitars in my background on Zoom, right? So I had my guitar, I had my guitar things, you know, the guitars on my background, and I would sometimes change my guitar pictures because I got a few good guitars. Um, and and so the guitar players usually catch that. So that was they'll say, "Hey, what are those guitars?" And I'll say, "What are your guitars?" And Shappy was the funniest one of that because he said, and we were doing it was a multilingual tech management here, so sometimes we were doing the sound checks in different languages. Okay, so I've had so that was fun too, doing sometimes in Spanish, doing in Russian, um, some in English, a lot in English, others in some in French. Hey, whatever. We were making it happen. It was great. So just lots of fun. But the Chappie's one was really fun because during the time when he was uh, playing and stuff, and he saw my pictures, and I got guitars. He said, "You got guitars?" And I said, "Oh, that." I said, "Yeah, that's just four of them. I got I got eight Martins, eight Taylors. Well, I've had eight Martins, eight Taylors, four Takamine old ones, plus a few others." And he's just laughing. So what he does is Chappie starts going around and introducing to me all his guitars in the two rooms. In the two rooms, he's bringing over here, and so we're doing the sound check, and he's going and grabbing the guitar. It was so fun because this is what musicians do. This is the geeky stuff musicians do. We're just all proud of our instruments. So that we play. So he's like going and getting the guitars and coming out, and we had to go in, and we had to go do the next sound check. But hey, this is the this is just a people moment. It's all about people, and sometimes that extra 30 seconds is just the right thing to do because it builds the bond between the the musician and the sound engineers, or sound engineer if you're one, or whatever. It builds that bond that's really important, because really, sound engineering is a trust kind of thing. And it's a hard thing to do. It's hard enough to do when you're in physical, kind of in person, but when you do it virtually, it's even harder, because you're just trying to figure it out. It's all guessing game, like customer support over phone. Or it can be a lot like that, or over chat. Some of the other ones, I'm trying to think of some of the other ones I was remembering. Um, the two in Spanish, boy, I can't remember your names. I think you're from the two that the guitar player, and then the singer. The microphone, the singer was going great. The guitar was creating some noise too. And I had looked at it and said, "Hey, that's a Taylor Baby, right? Taylor Baby guitar." And he said, "Yeah, yeah, nice." I said, "I need to know what the electronics and that thing is. Tell me." And we're trying to do this in Spanish. And I can speak Spanish, but the problem is I don't have I don't, it's not a domain I work in sound engineering, okay? So it's not like I speak Spanish about sound engineering. And so I don't know what the technical words were to actually ask the questions. So, and I was trying to explain this to Ksenia, and she was trying to explain it in Spanish. Um, and and the thing is, what I wanted to know about that guitar was, um, because I have had a lot of Taylors. In fact, I'm on the Taylor Facebook group, where they call me the historian of the Taylor guitars and Taylor electronics, because I know them all. And so I wanted to know if he had that a certain set of electronics in that version had changed from a certain year to another year, and I knew it. And I wanted to know, because that might have been the reason we were having problems, or it could be cables and stuff. But so we were having these experiences behind the scenes. Um, just trying to think that any more before this kind of video's going long, but this is for all the musicians too. So it's really for all the musicians, to kind of being thankful to them. Um, uh, 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 the I'm just trying to think of the two ladies. I'm sorry, I can't remember all your names, because I don't have the list name of the people here, and I'm trying to just go off the top of my names. The 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 two voices, the piano and the voice for uh, uh the Ukrainian sing, that was just like, wow. That was that just the sound was so. I think that was when I said this is a professional sound, with just two people, and just the loudness was really just like, wow, I love this. You don't have to tell people to turn up the mic. It's already there. And just the moments that Dan and I were doing this thing, yeah, this is good. Now there were some moments trying to figure out, we're back and forth, and uh and trying to say, this, and you test it back and forth. I'm just trying to think. Dan, I can't remember. I mean, Dan and I were doing this, and it was my first time with any of these musicians. He had done it, I think, once before, so uh, with a few of them. So it was kind of a just coming in, and thrown into the swimming pool and say swim. Well, I actually threw myself into the swimming pool, because I didn't have someone else throw me in. I said, I'm willing to jump in this one. We'll see how it goes. And it was really fun, because experience did help. A lot of the experience did help. Um, just trying to think of any other examples. Sorry, I don't have a list of people in my mind, but I'm just trying to remember some of the more memorable ones, which already I've given most of the memorable ones. But for any of the ones I don't want to forget, there were so many. The flamenco guitar players, like, wow. Now we had just a little bit of things with the voice clipping, but that was easy to kind of work it out. Getting people to just to sometimes use simple setups. A lot of people wouldn't want to have. Some people would have a little more complex setup, and finally we said, "Hey, let's go down to bare bone basics." Uh, and to really reduce the number of cables and things. Less is more, and I really, Ksenia, I mean, her point of view is, simpler, and I totally agree, because you can turn things into you can boil the ocean over these things too much, and make it too complex. Um, when it can be done simpler, for the quality, just for the concert and stuff. And it's always good to have, a little better stuff, better equipment, but But not every people can actually buy that stuff. It can be kind of complicated, and expensive to do, and I don't even have some of the things I should have. So because I've got them up in a music room up at the SCP France Paris office, so a lot of my equipment is there, but I don't have access to because of with the COVID. So I have been strapped and things too, having the quality microphones I've wanted to be able to do some recordings, and it's like, why don't you have this, Jeff? And it's like, well, it's all sitting up in a room that I can't access right now because the badge has been, disabled, disactivated. So, um, the so I mean, I could go on. It's already 16 minutes here, and I'm just trying to think of all just these fun moments of the sound engineering and really being honored to work with, people that are really they're doing everything they can share and to do their voices and their instruments. And eh, there were moments finding out where that noise is coming from, and to do sound checks and and have people telling, hey, just back up in the room, move away from the microphone a little bit, or and always the same things. And I think the real fun thing I had at the beginning of this was just being, asking some questions first to Ksenia, and just say, do you have any documentation about how to do this stuff for the musicians? And she had all this already ready. It's all gone out, and her guide is really good. It's really a simplistic guide. It's really bare bones essentials and basics. Um, and I had to do the same kind of thing in the beginning of COVID. For the first year, I had to do a French version of this because I was dealing with a lot of people that don't speak English well enough to be able to deal with them in English. Um, though everything is in English on this kind of thing. Uh, so I ended up making a localized French version of, well, not even a localized French version. I was writing in French, right? Um, and the Zoom documentation, I already talked about doing the Zoom documentation, and just creating the Zoom documentation is better than Zoom has, and creating the French version of it, and making playlists and doing videos of this, and creating configuration guides, and creating explanation things that sound engineers can use, and having a simple one, and then having a longer one, because you got to have the version for the people that are connecting their instruments and have a real simple guide, and then you got to have the deep dive guide for the geeks, kind of figure out all the different problems you're going to have. So I did that during the first year of COVID in French, and so when I read Ksenia's, her sound technique guide for the technical guide for the artist, I said, this is great. This is really good. I want to use this because it's pretty much all the stuff that I did in French a year before. She had a few extra things, some other kind of cool things. And I think all the experience I had just came in and just really complemented that and made it so that we could figure things out really fast, fairly fast. Um, we avoided, I think, dozens of hours of potential hair pulling experiences, and gray hairing experiences, just from having already been through them before, and being able to recognize the issues and the problems fairly quickly and help resolve them, fairly quickly, um, and really enjoying that. It was just enjoying it the whole time, right? Enjoying the whole experience and thing, and it was fun. It was fun. So it's up to 20 minutes now. Hope all of you musicians have, thank you for collaborating, and just loved your music. So it was a great festival, and thanks for everything you did to earn all that, raise the funds for Ukraine. Because you can't play with a microphone, you can't play with the volume during a thing. When you're doing this, you can't do any sound engineering processing. Usually during a concert, when someone's there, a sound engineer is actually playing with the knobs and actually changing things. I mean, I would literally change things physically during a concert to adjust for things as they're happening in a physical room. But we can't do this here. We got to get the setting right and don't touch it. So there's a lot of those the things that we're kind of making that challenge to do an online concert. But it's so much fun. And in the end, I mean, uh, uh, and Dan, just want to say, just the collaborative experience of doing this, and the ideas and the thoughts of what was possibly happening, and the ideas we could do to change things. Hey, thanks. It was just I really appreciated that the experience And this is my first time doing it with with these any of these musicians here and with the people working with and trying to pull this off. And just hope that the stuff that ideas I had were helpful. I think they were. And the musicians we had a really I'll say a painless concert. The concert was painless. Because we had spent the time investing. And I want to say Ksenia's your technical document for get up front is really good, really 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 good. I had to make the French version of this a couple years ago, and with people that didn't know, but it's just so well written, so understandable, and for people to use. Uh, so that's the under 20-minute explanation. All the fun times. It was a great concert. Just really loved it. Thanks everybody for participating and for um, sharing your music and your experience for supporting Ukraine. And glad to be able to just kind of be your behind the scenes sound geek for this one. Thanks.